Welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show right here at 1130 The Tiger. Pleased to welcome in a guy who went from a star in high school to a star in college to a tremendous NFL career, and now is on the dark side with the rest of us over here on the media. He is Marcus Spears, former LSU Tiger, former Dallas Cowboy, and now member of the ESPN Analyst group. Marcus, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, man. Doing great. In the midst of a Friday work day, looking forward to the weekend.
Hey, that's what we're all about. We're all looking forward to the weekend, I can promise you. Hey, take me back a little bit, because you're a guy who switched positions famously. We all remember that when you were at LSU, moved from tight end to defensive line, and then got into the media, which we all know is the dark side. But when you were coming up and you were at LSU and you were getting to the Cowboys and you were going through your pro career, did you think media was on the horizon, or did you even know what you wanted to do post-playing career?
Yeah, I had an idea, man. It's funny because when I was in Dallas, which you inundated with media all the time, I took a liking to it and really started to just talk to the guys that were there every day. One guy that stands out is Ed Werder, who was the reporter, and I would ask Ed all the time, man, how is it working at the mothership? And we would have our conversations, but I also had a healthy respect for those guys. I understood how tough their job was, especially when you're dealing in the human element and how high intensity it is in the NFL and different personalities. So seeing those guys maneuver, and I didn't like them all, got to be honest. I'm sure all the players don't like me either, but I did have a respect for what they had to do and understood that also, like, they were the people that grew the game. They were why fans knew who we were as individuals, and also telling stories, the ones that do it honestly and verbatim when guys give them information. I just always had a healthy respect for that. So it was a pass for me. I did radio while I was playing for the Cowboys on my off days, with a guy named Brady Tinker, who was a big media guy in Dallas. So yeah, I had an idea when I was in the pros that I would want to do something in this capacity.
It's interesting too, Marcus, because your career to me has been all about being able to be flexible. Right, we mentioned you went from tight end to defensive line. You went from player to media. And even within the media, you have changed since you've gotten there. You were kind of early on college football analyst, moved into that NFL analyst role, and now you're a personality as much as you are an analyst. And I think there's something to be said for your adaptability. Tell me about the idea of being able to be kind of quick on your feet and willing to take on whatever the next challenge is and be able to be molded into something new when the time comes.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that question. I love sports. That's where it starts. And I watch a lot, and I digest a lot of sports. Basketball is actually my favorite sport to watch. So I know a lot about the game, playing it, and also just learning from other guys that played in the NBA and having relationships. I think the most important thing for me, man, I never wanted to get pigeonholed into he's this, because that is when you kind of start getting limitations placed on you as far as what you have the capability of doing. And I got to give Mike Greenberg a shout out for giving me a platform on Get Up. I got to, shout out Stephen A. and Mac on First Take for bringing me in on conversations that weren't just about football. And then Stephanie Drewley, one of the executives at ESPN, just, having my back and really helping me evolve as a personality on whatever you deem it. But it really is based in the foundation that I just love sports, man. And I've been arguing with my father and my uncles and my mom and sister about sports my entire life. This is a very natural thing for me. TV doesn't change me. The way I talk on TV about sports and topics and the opinions that I give is the way I talk about them with my boys, with my guys that I grew up with. So for me, I'm just trying to take a little bit of that country flavor, make people feel like we all are sitting on the couch or we all at a barbecue or something and we talking about sports. It gets passionate. It gets emotional. You think you're right, and sometimes you dead wrong. All of those elements I embrace. I don't want to be on television making everybody think I'm a know-it-all or give this impression that I'm better because I work for ESPN and I talk about sports, so I know more sports than you. I just never have that. I never have that approach to it. I know a lot about the game. I put my 10,000 hours in football, and I understand a lot of the intricacies that, people that haven't been around the game understand. But the bottom line is, like, our job is to entertain fans and give them information and teach them about the game and give opinions. And that for me is the highlight, man. And I tell people all the time, when I stop having fun, you will no longer see me on TV.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. Talking to Marcus Spears, ESPN analyst. I'm curious. You're the guest speaker, the invited speaker for the kickoff dinner for the Independence Bowl. Tell me about kind of moving into that realm, because it's one thing to talk about football on TV, but it's a complete different thing to stand in front of an audience of several thousand and speak. Kind of give me some indication of what that's like, kind of growing into a public speaker in addition to being on television, being an analyst.
Oh, man, I love it. I love it. It's almost like a game. It's almost, you get the butterflies before you go up on stage. Mm-hmm. And you have an audience that's there to listen to you. So I respect that element. People paying money to come listen to you say something. So for me, it's a mixture of telling stories of my experience. It's a mixture of the great opportunities that I've had being around coaches that are historical figures in the game of football. It also, like, let's laugh. Let's have a good time. Like, I'm not, coming to give a speech on how to send a rocket to NASA. We talking about football. We enjoying it. I'm from Louisiana. I'm talking about food. I'm talking about the way I was raised and the things that are prevalent. And what's going on right now. And I'm very grateful to the Independence Bowl Committee. I'm grateful to the people in Louisiana as well. Still, showing me support, still showing me love. I cannot wait to get down there. I'm going to come early so I can go fishing with a couple guys that but we gonna have a good time. And I'm not playing when I say that. I believe laughter should fill a room sometimes. And, all the time in my case, but, some people have to be serious.
Well, you're on the right show for laughter, my friend. We do not take ourselves seriously here.
When we get into the room, man, we're going to have a good time and share some stories, and hopefully it's a message that comes out to help people and make the room better, man.
Hey, if you need a good pond to fish in, my dad's got one that's all stocked with bass and brims. You just let me know. I can put you on it. We'll make it happen. Yeah.
That's absolutely.
Let's talk about the big story in the NFL right now, which is the vaccinated versus non-vaccinated players. They've come out with their protocols. It's very clearly an effort to try to get folks to vaccinate. We can see that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, and this is what I keep telling everyone, they're still going to let you play unless obviously you test positive. I'm curious if do you see this as a negative, or that the league is trying to do its due diligence and make sure people are getting vaccinated? It feels a little, it feels a little bit unwieldy for the guys that aren't vaccinated, but at the same time, they can prevent this if they want with one shot.
Yeah, it's such a gray area in that conversation because you don't know the individual and what's their reason, right? And that's the thing that I've been on, like talking about this, and you would have to vet each and every individual guy that decided to get vaccinated or not to, and find out why. The league, though, on their behalf, they have protocols, man. Like the goal, I think, sometimes get lost in the nuance. The goal is for everybody to be vaccinated and be safe. Now, obviously, there is self-interest in that for the NFL. They want an uninterrupted season. Mm-hmm. Last year, I thought they did a phenomenal job adjusting, dealing with teams that had COVID ravaged through their facility, dealing with individual players, and getting to a point where they were able to play a Super Bowl. Stadiums were empty for the most part. So the flexibility that they showed last year. And I think with the vaccine, I'm a proponent. I took the vaccine. I'm a proponent of it, but I know that people have their different reasons. So when I talk about that, I'm very critical not to disrespect their thought process or how they're going about doing it. But as it pertains to guys in the NFL, it will be much easier for them if they get vaccinated. If not, they'll just have to go through the protocols and deal with the things that being unvaccinated brings. And that's the league's prerogative. That is how they want to operate. And I like to think that it's all in the thought of player safety and health. So it's just so tough because there's so many different opinions when you get two guys that are vaccinated, unvaccinated, and whether they will or they won't. I think we'll get to a point where 99% of the guys will be vaccinated.
Yeah.
So talking about this right now, it's probably a little premature. We got a little while before the season starts or before training camp. And I believe that just personally, we'll see what happens.
All right, last couple of minutes. We got to ask you about some of the local flair around here. Let's start with your alma mater, the LSU Tigers. Last year was obviously a transition year. You're dealing with several quarterbacks that are in the mix. Brennan, who got injured last year, Max Johnson, who's in the mix, the Nussmeier kid. Tell me about this LSU Tiger squad and what you're expecting from Coach O this year.
The one thing I'm expecting is for Max Johnson to have a lead in the clubhouse. I just love the way the kid poised and played last year against Florida. I think a lot of things that you see and learn about young players that facing adversity. And that was one of those litmus tests that you can draw from and say, hey, we may have something in this kid. And obviously we know the pedigree that he comes from. And not to take away anything from Brennan, he's been there and has had opportunity to play, unfortunately injured and all of that. But when it comes to just LSU Tigers football, I don't expect them to be bad. That's the bottom line. Like last year was not the way you want to come back from the type of season that they had. And by no means am I saying that the expectation was for them to have another season like they did with Burrow and company. But
right.
You do want to have some level of consistency. And I think that's Coach O's task this year is to kind of not even revitalize, just be a part of the conversation when it comes down to the end. And with the college football playoff potentially expanding to 12, which is a whole other conversation.
Right.
LSU be in that conversation based on the talent that they have. And a guy that I'm thinking is going to have an explosive year is Keyshawn Butte, the wide receiver. I'm really looking forward to seeing his progress and see how he evolves. And then Davis Price in the backfield. So, and Emery, the talent has never been major issue for LSU. I just want to see them put together, and I want to see, obviously, who I think is the best cornerback in the country and seeing him play a full, complete season and kind of return to that form he had in his freshman year.
Yeah, you and Ryan Clark have more cigars to smoke, after all. I mean, you got to have a reason to smoke those things.
We do not mind lighting up a cigar from the success of LSU.
All right, last two things. Two programs obviously around here. Your other alma mater, the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott, local boy, Houghton High School here in town. He coming back off the injury. It's always seems like Dallas, every year we kind of buy into all right, this maybe is the year. Tell me about these Cowboys and what do we need to expect, especially with Dak coming off the injury?
I expect them to win the division, because they do have the best quarterback in the division. I think Dak is going to be fine. Dak is, I tell people all the time, the mental strength and capability that he has, I think has been something that's been missed. This dude has went through the worst when it comes from a mental part. So getting over an injury from the physical standpoint, that's a timing thing, and you just got to rehab and get better. But mentally, Dak will be fine. This team ran into a buzzsaw. It was the worst possible situation and scenario you could try to field and form a football team for a duration of a season. You lose your starting quarterback. You lose 95% of your offensive line. Zeke is having fumble issues. defensively, you in a scheme under Mike Nolan, who had been out of coaching for a while, where none of these guys understood, first of all, how to play. So to expect them to stop anybody was a foregone conclusion because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. And then, more importantly, like, you have talent everywhere as long as the injury bug doesn't present itself. And when you look at the skill position group for Dallas, I mean, you could argue that this is the top wide receiver group in the league. So listen, I expect them to win a division. I ain't talking about no Super Bowl and nothing like that. I'm just talking about if the Dallas Cowboys don't win their division, it'll be a major letdown, I believe.
All right, last thing, obviously we got to talk about the Saints. That's my squad. Taysom, Jameis, some losses defensively, especially on that interior of the defensive line. Sean Payton, this is going to be the ultimate test for him, first time without Drew Brees. Tell me a little bit about the Saints and where you're expecting them to fall.
Just as far as the quarterback?
Just in general, yeah, kind of what do you think their prospects are, and who do you think ends up ultimately being the starter?
Yeah, man, I think Jameis is going to be the starter. I think Jameis is well suited for what Sean Payton wants to do offensively. We know the question, the turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
I think Taysom makes this team more dynamic in the role that he's currently in. And I know that's hard for Taysom to hear and people that want Taysom to be the quarterback. But I think his impact at what he does makes the Saints tremendously better as a football team. Coming in and having that role of being the dual threat quarterback, having special packages for him, I think the team will operate. Now, unless James is throwing the ball to the other team, we're not having a conversation. Well, Michael Thomas was injured majority of the season last year. Hopefully he'll be healthy. We know how dynamic and good he is at that spot. And from a defensive standpoint, man, I've been really impressed with Shy Tuttle and Malcolm Roach. I think they're going to help on the interior. And I know losing Trey Hendrickson, especially that pass rush capability that he had, you concerned. Marcus Davenport, first-round pick, hasn't really come on this year. And we know Cam is going to play well. Look, the Saints, I urge people don't go to sleep on the New Orleans Saints. And I know the flavor of the year, and rightfully so, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers based on winning the Super Bowl and what they had the ability to do last year. And Tom Brady being there and bringing back all 22 starters. But the Saints will not go silently into the night. The quarterback position is the biggest question, and I believe Sean Payton and Jameis are going to have something up their sleeve. And I think Jameis sitting out for a year watching football is going to help him tremendously. So I think they'll be a good team. I think they'll be a playoff team, and I'm looking forward to see Jameis Winston under Sean Payton's tutelage.
It's going to be a lot of fun. He is Marcus Spears, ESPN analyst. Marcus, you're basically a Shreveport guy at this point. I mean, you went from Baton Rouge to Dallas, so that's basically what Shreveport people do on a regular basis. So you're basically a Shreveport guy now, Marcus. We'll call you a native son.
I don't mind that at all, man. Shreveport been a great city to me. Baton Rouge is home and is love, but to be adopted by Shreveport is amazing.
Well, look, we'll be able to see you July the 10th. That's Saturday night, 6 o'clock, the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl Kickoff Dinner. Marcus Spears is the guest speaker. Thank you so much for your time today, Marcus. We really appreciate it and look forward to seeing you in July.
Okay, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate it.
That was Marcus Spears, ESPN